All right, guys. Well, welcome back. I'm so excited to see you guys on another Saturday for WordPress 101 Part 2. And I'm really excited because we're going to dig in and start learning how to get into the back end and learn how to start making pages and posts. And then by next week, we're going to have a good working session where we're going to be able to create our website and hopefully do a little bit of show and tell if anybody wants to be able to show what they worked on. That'd be kind of cool. All right. So today we're going to talk about, first we're going to do actually a WordPress review. So if you weren't here last week or you didn't see the replay, we'll just do a quick review just so we can refresh our mind on what we learned about the basics of WordPress. We'll talk about website planning and WordPress anatomy because that's very important, I think. And then we're going to explore the back end so that we can understand kind of the analogy of how everything works, where things are located, menus and stuff like that, so we can get familiar. And then we're going to we're going to choose a theme, we're going to make a page, we're going to make a post, and we're going to prep for part 3, which includes thinking about what type of pictures we want to use, what type of words we want to use, things like that. So we have time to plan all that stuff out, so no worries if you haven't thought about that yet. And remember, I'm always down for the confirmation and for the feedback. So just let me know in the chat if I say sound good or you guys good or you got there, just let me know so that we can all get there together. Sound good? I'll wait for the chat to populate. All right, Kevin's got the thumbs up. We can use the emojis too, whatever you want to use to let me know. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. And then don't forget, if you are here for all 3 classes, you will get your cool certificate. So perseverance is one of those P's we talked about. If you can stick it out, then you will be rewarded, but hopefully more so because you'll be able to say that you made your own WordPress website. So stick it out for 3 parts and hopefully we can get our certificate. Cool. Now, for those of you who haven't been introduced to me before, I'm Chanel, and I'm sure you guys have all heard the story, but I actually want to tell it a little different today. I want to kind of make it a little bit visual because I think it'll be kind of beneficial to see kind of the design story in a visual way and for you to kind of see the way that your creativity can manifest to something that can become a career if you want it to be, or you can use it as part of your career. So as I said before, I'm Chanel and my creativity started from a really young age. I'm the one that's actually smiling in the picture, not the one that's really mad. So I don't know what she was mad about. But anyway, I actually really enjoy doing a whole bunch of artistic stuff. And hopefully you guys can see this. But these are the types of things that I was doing when I was a kid. I was doing like these ink sketches. I was doing painting people, rappers and songstresses that I really enjoy, Jay-Z and all kinds of other people that I liked. And I was even doing self-portraits. I did not paint this at this age, but I did do this probably back in middle school or high school or something like that. So this is kind of like how I started, just kind of doing all kinds of artistic stuff. But as I said, I didn't even really know how that could be translated to a career, but I did discover graphic design in high school. And so from there, I kind of took it and ran with it. And I just learned that you can combine kind of the creative side with the technical side and really create a valuable career. So from there, again, went to a couple of schools. I think the Big Ten is going to start playing football now. So now we're going to have some good football to watch, I think, Ohio State and SCAD. And then from there, I just have had a long career of not only just working with corporate and Fortune 500 companies, but also doing just as much freelance on the side so that I could build my skill set and experience in different ways. And so even doing that, I was able to do stuff like magazine layouts, in which I kind of laid out this whole magazine spread here. So all kinds of cool stuff that you're able to work on as you kind of grow and develop and translate your skills into something more than just art, but maybe something that could be, a design career. And then also just doing that for work as well. So doing different corporate layouts and collateral and marketing materials that our customers and clients could use, working all kinds of stuff like that. So that really kind of helped me to develop myself as a designer. And welcome, Wesley, to the class. And then finally, here we are, we're at today, where we have Awesome Design Academy. And that is where basically I teach you and people like you who want to learn design to enhance the work that you do. I do lots of beginner content and things that just really explain to you in a very simple way, and hopefully a fun way that you can use to translate across your personal or professional projects or your business or whatever you want to do. And so for me, that turned into being able to create my own products and being a 2-time published author. So I got 2 books that I wrote and created and designed. And also I have graphic design flashcards, which is my latest product. So you can see the transition from kind of the beginning where I just kind of had sketches and the drawings all the way till now, able to kind of transform that into something that's tangible and useful to other people and hopefully help them grow too. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you know someone who has a creative side, or maybe it's a child or someone you know or yourself, and you're trying to figure out how you can manifest that into something that's can maybe pay you, or you can help other people or transfer it to your job, just remember that design, both graphic design and web design, are viable options that you can use. So hopefully that kind of helps, the visual journey kind of helps you understand a little bit more. But just want to give you a little bit more kind of background about what I do. Cool. And then of course, the reason why we're here because we want to make our awesome website. So by no means does your website have to look like this. This is just an example of what it could look like, but it's going to be simple. It's only going to be 3 pages. It's going to be a home page, a blog page, and a contact page. And we can decide how we want to lay this out. But we're just going to go start with the basics. And of course, if you want to go further than that and add more pages, feel free to do so. But we just want to make sure that everyone kind of gets the basics and can understand how to use WordPress. And if for some reason, you can't keep up, or you need to kind of like go back and review, you can feel free to rewatch the replay and kind of review those notes. And hopefully you also got the attachment that I sent you guys in the email, that kind of was an overview sheet of kind of explaining WordPress in a very simple way as well. So you have kind of these reference materials that you can look through and hopefully review that will help you kind of get through this process. Sound good? All right. Love the chat box. Cool. All right. So we're just going to do a really quick review just so we can remember what we talked about last week. We're not going to go too much in detail about it, but hopefully we remember some of those key points from last week. So remember WordPress. We had that kind of technical definition, but the layman's term is basically that it's a free website platform that was created by a whole community of developers, and it has the source code, which is free and available for everyone to use. So there's developers all across the world creating WordPress themes every day for us to use at our disposal, and it's a huge community that we can build from this platform. As Kevin said, it's built with PHP, which is the code base, the language that it's built from, and it also stores all of our data that we can pull from in a complex spreadsheet, which is called MySQL. So it's a database. And then most importantly, probably to all of us, is that we can use this as an easy template system. And we call this a content management system. So we can manage all our content, our words, our images, our media, our video, music, whatever, all in this backend, and it's in a kind of easy to use form. And then remember, WordPress started off as a blogging website. So really started off as kind of like a personal, like online website journal. And so it still has that kind of foundation, but now we can do more complex things like build out full websites, and also we can make web apps. So it's a pretty cool tool that we can use, and I'm excited for you guys to dig into it. Now, does anybody remember what the website formula was for a website? Does anybody remember those kind of 3 blocks that we talked about? If you remember anything from that, type it in the chat. Just kind of want to see. Yep. Tosha wasn't even here, but she knows, yeah, obviously web design for sure. Design, what else? Development, yes. What else was in there? Remember anything else? The 5 Ps. Okay, yes. Now, what are the 5 Ps is the question. If you guys can rattle that off, then I'd be really impressed. Although you might be looking at the worksheet, so then you might be cheating. I don't know. But either way, that's pretty cool. Wesley says persistence. Kevin says he'd be cheating. Well, at least he's honest. That's great. Patience, yes. Persistence is pretty close. It's perseverance, but that's pretty much kind of similar. So I would agree with that. Planning, for sure, yes. Perseverance, yep. Practice, problem solving. Bam, you guys got all of them. Awesome. I'm so glad you're paying attention. This is good. So yes, web design is the first block. We definitely need, oh, Wesley said he watched the replay. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for that, Wesley. So web design is definitely the first block. We definitely need the visual side to be able to create a website, which includes the graphic design, user interface, the styling, SEO, all that kind of cool stuff that helps us see the visual part of it. But we also need the web development, which is the backend, which is the coding, making sure that we have the right web server. Remember, this is the place where your website is hosted. Remember, your website is just a whole bunch of files of code, but it has to be hosted somewhere. If you remember that kind of thing where we talked about how websites work. And then we have to think about network security and how we want to build out, maybe if we want to do e-commerce and kind of sell something on our website, we need to think about that as well. And then as you guys rattled off, definitely the 5 Ps: planning, patience, perseverance, problem solving, and practice. Now I want you guys to keep that in mind today as we start to go in the back end and play around with some of this stuff. So today's exercise is really just to practice and to experiment. I don't want you guys to feel like you have to design and get your website perfect today. It's really just for experimentation and to understand how things work. So don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about if you get something wrong. That's why there's an undo button. Don't worry about if you didn't put something in the right place. I promise you it won't break. It won't break your computer, I don't think. So you'll be just fine. So make sure you practice patience, not only for the system, but for yourself. And just keep on persevering, keep practicing, and know that you're going to have to solve problems, but we're all going to definitely be able to get through that and create our website. So remember, WordPress basically takes all those things from that slide that we just looked at, and it kind of compresses it down. So that's a little bit easier of an experience for us, and we don't have to worry about doing the actual coding, and we can actually worry more about what our website goals are, what type of content we're going to create, all that good stuff. Now remember, the breakdown of the back end is that, remember we talked about the code base as the PHP and the MySQL. That's like the underlining code that makes up the WordPress platform. And then we have our template system, which is comprised of different types of themes. So we can have the free themes that come with WordPress already. We have paid themes, so if people are all across the world making all different kinds of website themes that you can use, restaurant themes, music themes, educational themes, and you can pay for these and also use that as well. Or you can make your own custom theme and build it yourself. You can do any of those 3 things. And then on top of that, if there's some type of functionality that's not already existing in your theme, then you can get these plugins or add-ons, and we can add functionality to our theme. So maybe it's like a calendar or something like that. We can buy a plugin, or we can find a free plugin, and we can add that to our theme. And that's our template system. And the way that we do that, the way that we add our plugins into our themes, is we use something called Shortcode, which is basically a snippet of code where we kind of, if we wanted to add our calendar per se, for example, we can take that shortcode, we can say we want to add the calendar to our about page or to our contact page, and wherever you want that calendar to appear, we add that shortcode there, and it will cause that calendar to pop up in that area. So these are kind of like the building blocks of how you use WordPress in the back end. Make sense so far? Do you remember this stuff, guys? Now I'm going to keep asking you questions the whole time, so you're just going to have to just type in yes and copy and paste it, so you can just paste it real fast. You don't have to type it. That way we can just move real fast. Cool. All right. And then, of course, this is called our content management system, our CMS. So remember, we can create all different types of cool sites. We can buy themes, or we can find free ones that are already available to us on WordPress.com. Remember that each layout is built with these different content blocks that we can drag and drop. So for example, if you wanted to use this pizza theme that's shown here, the second one that we're looking at, and let's say you wanted that section at the bottom that has the 4 pictures of the pizzas to move up, like right below the guy who's holding the pizza, we can actually take that section and just drag it up right where we want it to be. So that's what makes WordPress cool, because we can really easily customize our sections and the content within the sections and just drag and drop those things and easily edit all those different components. And then lastly, we have to remember that if we want to use the WordPress platform, we can start that process from two different places. We can go to WordPress.com or we can go to WordPress.org. And the main differences between these two is that with WordPress.com, it's easier to start there. It's a free way to start. And they already provide the hosting for you, so I don't have to worry about that. But there are some limitations. You won't be able to download any plugins unless you upgrade to a paid plan. And you won't have any access to the backend code if you wanted to kind of really dive deep and see more of what was going on with your files. Now, if you go to WordPress.org, you can download the WordPress platform in a zip file, and you can upload it to your own hosting plan. So maybe you got it from GoDaddy or from Google Cloud or HostGator. You can actually host it yourself, and now you have the freedom to do whatever you want because you have access to all the files. You have access to upload any plugin that you want. And you can basically use any theme and customize in any way you would like, but you do have to pay for your hosting and you do have to pay for your domain. But for this purpose of this class, we're just going to roll with WordPress.com so that everything's free, everything's easy, and we don't have to worry about paying for anything. All right. So that's our quick review because I want to get that deep into website planning and then going in the back end and just getting down and dirty with WordPress. So if no one has any questions, and Leanne says I have WordPress.org, no problem. We're actually working from WordPress.com today, but you can still follow along with if you have WordPress.org and you already have a site that you can log into. You'll be able to kind of see similar things going on there. So if no one has any other questions, we're just going to go ahead and dive deep into website planning and anatomy. And planning is really important, and understanding WordPress and just the website planning process in general is important. WordPress is just a tool, just like anything else, like design software like Photoshop or Illustrator or Word or PowerPoint or whatever it is. It's just a tool there to help you do whatever you need to do. But if you don't have any basic understanding or foundational understanding of how design works or how websites work or what you need to do to make it successful, then that tool won't really serve you as well as it could because you don't really have that understanding behind it. So you definitely want to have a more well-rounded understanding of web design, and that's what I would kind of like to infuse in this class as well, if you don't mind. And hopefully it will help you kind of understand a little better. So we're just going to quickly go through the basics of website planning, just so you can think about it. But these are the 4 things, like really high-level things that you should do each time you do a website, whether it's really simple or it's complex. And of course, if it's really complex, these steps are going to be more complex as well, but these are still some high-level things that you definitely want to do no matter what size your project. So 1, you want to ask critical questions. 2, you want to create a sitemap. 3, you want to gather and create any content that you might need to use for your site, whether it's the words or the pictures or whatever you're using. And then 4, you want to sketch out or wireframe the site pages. And I'll explain each of these so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. So first, we definitely just want to ask some critical questions about why we're even doing this. So there's the who, the what, the why, the how, the where, and the when. So of course, the very obvious one is, what is this website about? We got to know what we're making. And we need to know what the goals are and what we should be trying to produce. And we should also know what kind of pages do we need on this website? Do we need an about page? Do we need a services page? Do we need a page that shows all our products? Like, what do we need? And for the purpose of this project, our website is going to be about ourselves. So it's going to be about you personally, professionally, whatever you want to talk about. It's just going to be about you because that's a pretty easy subject that you're probably already an expert on. So then we got to think about who. Like, who is this website for? Well, in this case, this website is just going to be for you personally, just so you can learn how to use WordPress. But if you're doing a website for someone else, say you have a client or you're doing it for work, you need to know who exactly is your audience and your client. So for example, your client might be a business owner, or it might be, we'll say like a model. Maybe your client's a model who wants to be able to show the different images and pictures that they have so they can be hired by agency. So the client is the model, but the audience that they're using the site for to find agents are the actual agents. Those are the audience that they were trying to actually persuade to look at this client's website and say, I really like his or her style. I like their photos, and I want to hire them as a model for my agency. So you have to think about not only the client, but who actually is the audience who's going to be viewing the site. And then you also want to think about who will be involved in the project. So right now, for this purpose, it's just us. But if you're doing this project for your job or for a client, maybe you have other people that you need to work with. Maybe you'll be working with website developers or the CEO or the CMO. Maybe you're working with a couple of different stakeholders in the business to help to kind of all formulate what this website's going to look like. So depending on how big or how small the project is, you may have other people involved in your website project. And then why? Why is really important. Like, what is the purpose of us creating the site to begin with? Well, for this purpose, we're creating this so that we can learn WordPress. But if you were doing, say, a nonprofit website, or say like breast cancer awareness website, maybe you're doing that website because you want people to be aware of the symptoms or the treatment or the preventative measures, or just understand better about how we can support that community. So you just have to know the purpose behind why you're doing something, because when you know why, then you know what you can put on the site that will help kind of fulfill that purpose. And then the how, of course, how will the site be created? Well, we're using WordPress, but in other contexts, maybe WordPress isn't the best solution. It just depends on who you're working with and what you're doing. And then how will the content be created? So do you already have text ready? Do you need to write up some text? Do you need to create your images? Do you need to take some photos? Or can you just use existing photos? Just think about all those things, how you'll actually create the site. And then where should the site be hosted? Well, we're going to host our website on WordPress.com, but you can host your website somewhere else. Maybe you have a web host that you want to use, and so you're using the WordPress.org, or maybe you're hosting on a website that on a host that your job or the client already has a host provided available for you, and you just use that instead. So it just depends on what the circumstances of the project are. And then when. This is really important. When does the site need to be launched? Because we need to know how fast or slow we can go to get this thing done. So for us, we're going to have our website done next Saturday, or hopefully shortly thereafter. But if you're doing a website for a job or a client or for something else that's really important that you need to hit a certain date, then you kind of have to figure out what type of team do I need to put together to make sure I hit this deadline, or maybe I need to increase my fee to go faster, or all those type of factors factor into the when part of the website. So these are some really critical questions to ask so that you can make sure you're on track and you can plan correctly. Now, the second thing we need is a sitemap. And basically all a sitemap is just a list of all your website pages. So it's really good to know exactly what pages do I need to have on the site so that I can understand what I need to build. And that's something that you can figure out either personally you would know that, or if you're working with a client or agency or your job, you guys kind of have to come together and brainstorm and figure out what are the needs of this website. So here we have kind of like this kind of flow chart thing, but we call this a sitemap. And it shows us that, the main page is the home page, but from there, we have our about page, our service page, our blog page, and our content page. And then even below our about page, there's a sublink under that talks about our team. And then their services, there are kind of sublinks below that talk about the different services. But for this purpose, we're just going to worry about the home page, the blog page, and the contact page. Keep it really, really simple. So these sitemaps can be really simple, or they can be really complex depending on how many pages you have. Some people have 3-page sites, 1-page sites. Some people have 50 pages, 100 pages. It just depends on what that site entails. And then we want to make sure that we can create our content and gather our assets. So we want to make sure that we have some copy written. And copy is just another word for saying text. So we want to make sure we write our website copy. So for our website, we're just going to have just like a small paragraph about ourselves. We don't need to have too much content written up. But we just want to have a little bit so that we can make sure that we know it's a website about us. And we want to gather and create our assets. So we want to gather some photos of ourselves that we can use for this. And I'll go into more detail about how many photos we need later. And then we want to decide how our content will be displayed. So if we have photos, maybe we want to put our photos in like a rotating carousel. Maybe we want to have paragraphs or quotes. We kind of want to think about how we're going to organize our content to best display the idea that we want to put forth. And so knowing these things ahead of time, sometimes you kind of concurrently figure this out as you're building it out. But the more that you know ahead of time, the easier it is for you to go ahead and build that website and know what type of functionality that you need. Is this making sense so far? I want to make sure I don't want to go too fast or too slow. All right, cool. And then the last part we need of this kind of planning kind of overview is we need to have a sketch or a wireframe. And you might say, well, that seems like kind of unnecessary. Like, I don't want to sketch something out. I kind of just want to get straight down to it. But these are kind of important too, because it really helps you to kind of work out the kinks and figure out what you want before you get to the actual program, the WordPress platform. And it's a lot easier to make mistakes here while you're just sketching it out really quickly than making mistakes and taking a long time to kind of fix that when you're in WordPress, and especially if you're on a timeline. So these sketches or wireframes are really like what they call low fidelity. Like, they're not detailed at all. They can be in black and white. You can just sketch it out on a piece of notebook paper. We don't need to worry about colors, fonts, exact pictures. We just need to know like where stuff is going to go. So I know I want to have a paragraph at the top. I want to have a photo below that. Below that, I want to have a quote. And then below that, I want to have the footer. So just like really basic stuff, just so that we can have like a really good blueprint of what our website is going to look like. And a lot of times when people bypass the planning process, it makes creating a little bit harder, because now you're trying to kind of do it on the fly instead of having it laid out for you. And so if you're planning on doing any other websites in the future or working on anything, you definitely want to take the steps to plan and sketch and have a process so that it's a lot easier for you to complete your website. Because otherwise, especially if you have a lot of people involved, it's going to be a lot of back and forth, probably a lot of pain, and maybe even a lot of money spent or wasted because you kind of use a lot of resources and haven't planned out correctly. So just keep that planning process in mind, and I think you'll be totally fine. Now let's think about the anatomy of a WordPress page or post. So for WordPress, all the page structures kind of follow the same kind of pattern. There's always a header at the top, and that's usually where you have your like kind of site name or logo, and you have usually where you have your menu or navigation. You've got the footer at the bottom, which is basically where you might have the copyright information or like little pieces of information that you want to have to be seen on every page, like maybe the address or the phone number or the contact email. And then in the middle, you have this kind of body area where we can have static content, or we can have our blog kind of be displayed here. And an optional place we could have is also a sidebar. So sometimes a sidebar just gives us more functionality and places to put more features into our website. And these features are actually called like widgets. So there's actually some additional features that are already pre-made, already pre-coded for us that we can drag into these places. So for example, if we had like a blog, our blog listed, but we had our blog categorized, we could show all the different blog categories in that sidebar. We can use a categories widget. Or if we had like, there was a calendar widget, or if there was a widget that just kind of lets you add some additional text somewhere. You can always add these kind of extra little functionality pieces in our footer or on our sidebar, and sometimes even in our content and body. But those are just like little extra pieces of functionality and features to help us kind of build out our website. And kind of think about the page structure as like a sandwich. So we always have the header at the top, the footer at the bottom, and then whatever the content is in the middle. So it's always kind of like a sandwich, but those are always the kind of the standard kind of parts of the page that will always be there. And you'll kind of notice this as well as you're looking at more website pages. So I'll give you like a real life example. So here's kind of like a WordPress theme that I found. And at the top, as you can see, we've got the header. So we've got the kind of logo over here. We've kind of got this top bar. And then we've got our navigation or our menu here. Then we've got the content and the body kind of in this middle area. And we actually have an area where we have our blog feed kind of coming into our home page. But if we actually want to go to our blog page and see all of the blog posts listed, we can click on View More and see that. We click on that View More button. And then we have our footer, which is this dark area at the bottom, and it's a 4-column footer. But we've got like kind of our social icons, we've got some quick links, we've got recent posts, we got contact details, and we have our copyright really small there at the bottom, if you can see that. But these are all kind of widgets that you can pull from WordPress. So they have like a quick links widget, they have a recent post widget. You can just pull those and drag those into your footer and create kind of this dynamic look. And that footer will be present on every single page of your website so that it's always easily accessible from any page of the website. And so again, you probably saw this on the sheet that I sent you through email, kind of that review of kind of the different types of posts and pages. But basically, these are the two main structures. There's a page and there's a post. So a page is basically any type of non-chronological content, basically any type of static content that probably won't change that much. So if you think about like an about page or a services page or a contact page, you may make changes to this over time, but I don't think you'll be changing that periodically, like every day. So these are pretty much things that are going to stay the same for the most part, and they just live on your website, and you can post those things in the navigation. So when you go to the navigation, you see about, contact, all those type of things. And then we have a post, and this is related to our blog. So when you're actually writing a blog, every time you write an entry, that's called a post. And the post actually will show up on the blog page, wherever you designate that to be. And by default, it's always going to show up in reverse chronological order, meaning that the most recent thing that you wrote is going to show up at the top, and the oldest thing is going to be at the bottom. And the reason for that is basically because it's easier to find. Because imagine if you had a long blog list of all these blog posts, but the newest one was at the bottom, it'd be kind of hard for someone to try to kind of dig through and find that. So it's always the most recent at the top. And our blogs, we can have text, we can have imagery in those blogs, and we can categorize those. We can add tags to them, just like how we add tags to our social media posts. We can add tags to our blog so that we can easily find the content that we want. We can create little excerpts from our blog, and we can have a discussion so people can actually comment on your blogs as well. But we'll talk about that more when we get to the back end. And so here's kind of a real life example of a page. So again, this is a kind of a static type of content that's not going to change that much over time, or it's not going to definitely change not periodically. So we have a contact page where we have a form and the address and the phone number and the email. And then I'll show you an example of kind of the blogs and what I was talking about with the most recent to oldest, kind of going from top to bottom. So each one of these is a blog post. Individually, if we click on the read more, it will take us to that individual post. This is our kind of our blog page where we see a list of our blogs from reverse chronological order. And if we have more than 3 or whatever we have displayed here, we can always kind of click to the next page to see more. And this is kind of an example of that sidebar I was talking about. We can add this to our WordPress page, and we can add different widgets like the search bar widget, the popular post widget, different kinds of things like that to support the information that we're looking at. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes, all right. Kevin's gonna keep it up with the thumbs up. I like that. Cool, so I hope you're getting excited so you can kind of start thinking about how your WordPress site can kind of shape up and how we can kind of lay that out. And remember, we're just gonna do a home page, a blog page, and a contact page. We're gonna keep it really simple, so no need to worry about adding too many other crazy pages. But if you wanna go forward and venture off, you can definitely do that. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and go to the back end. So if you guys remember, we started our WordPress.com account last week. So I want you to go ahead and go to your web browser, and I'm going to go there as well. And let's see, I'm going to drag it over here. Let me know if you guys can see that. But you're going to go to WordPress.com, not .org, but .com. And you're going to log in to your WordPress site. Hopefully you remember your password, you're logging your password. And if you didn't log out, you probably are already there. You probably are already in the back end. So when you get there, just let me know by saying I'm there in the chat. All right. Cool. I think you guys are already prepared anyway, so I'm excited about that. Love it. We'll wait for a few more people to get there, and we'll go ahead and we're going to kind of review some of this backend anatomy and figure out what menu items that we should be kind of focusing on to help us build out our pages. And again, if you want to go ahead and also look at your kind of PDF review resource that I sent, I believe it was on Thursday that I sent it as an attachment, you can look at that as well. This is actually what it looks like. It's this thing here. Hopefully you guys got that. And it kind of already kind of goes over a lot of the anatomy that we're going to talk about right now. So it looks like everybody's there. Very cool. Remember, we're going to keep confirming that we're together. So just be ready to keep typing in the chat. I know there's lots of screens going on. So if you're a person that has 2 screens, that's actually pretty awesome because you can put what I'm doing on one screen and you can put your WordPress that you're working on another. But if you don't, you may just need to minimize the actual Zoom box chat, the Zoom app, so that you can kind of see what you're working on as well and see both going on at the same time. So it's up to you how you want to work. But whatever's easiest for you to follow along, I would just suggest you go ahead and do that. And also, I'm just going to review some stuff, but if you want to click, along while I'm clicking too, that's also good because I think learning by doing is a great way to learn. So feel free to just click through as I'm clicking through as well, and we'll all get there together. So I want to show you guys, you should all be here. We can all start from kind of this My Home tab, which is kind of like your site setup. But we're just going to actually utilize some of these menu items here on the side. And the main ones that we're going to utilize, and you can see they've got these kind of drop down arrows here that show more options under each one. But the main ones that we're going to focus on is Site, Design, Tools, Manage, and WP Admin. And some of these we can go through really quickly, but I think that probably Site and Design are the 2 that you're probably really going to be using the most to build out your WordPress page. So if you guys click on Site, you'll see that under that are some few options. So there's pages, there's posts, media, comments, and feedback. So we're going to go ahead and click on pages. And pages are just what we talked about. These are the standalone pages that aren't in any chronological order. They're probably not going to change that much over time. Well, they'll change over time, but they won't change as much as the blog post page will change because you're adding posts more periodically. This is more static content. So right now, depending on what theme you have, you may or may not see these pages, but you probably should at least see a few of them. So I have home, blog, contact, and about. So these are all the pages on my website, whether draft, published, or unpublished, that we can kind of see all here in this list. And if you go over here to these kind of 3 dots on the side of each page, it gives you more options. So you can edit the page, you can view it, you can look at the stats, you can copy this page if you want to duplicate it. If you like the way the layout already is and you kind of want to make another page based off of that same layout, you can copy it, or you can copy the link to the page. And so this is our list. And so we're just going to click on one of these pages. I'm going to click on home. You can click on that too if you want. And we are here at our home page. Like I said, yours may be different depending on what theme we're using, but don't worry about that for now because we're going to get to themes in a second. But one thing that you guys should see that's pretty consistent across the top is that we have, let's move this over here, is that we have this kind of menu bar here at the top that has a whole bunch of options that we can use for each page and post. And so we're going to go over that really quickly so you guys can just understand how to access some of these menu items. So this big W kind of WordPress logo icon is kind of like your home button. So anytime you want to get back to that main home screen, you can click there. But this home button also gives you context of where you are right now. So right now it's talking about all the pages. So right now we're on the home page, but if you want to navigate to any of the other pages that you also have in your page list, you can do that. And if you made any drafts, you can also find those here too, which I did, but you may not have done that yet. And if I click this back button, it's going to take me right back to this kind of white interface, this home page area, and we can kind of get back to this menu over here. So I'm going to go back to the home page, and we're going to keep on going through. You guys with me so far? Are you guys here, or are you guys like on a totally different site? Just want to make sure. All right, cool. All right, the next block we have here is called Add Block. So remember, WordPress is made up of different content blocks. So right now, what we see on my homepage is we kind of like this, got this big header image here. We've got the headline and the button. We've got this kind of 3-column section with the photo and the text. We've got like a quote here and some text on the side. We kind of got this cool like 3-column kind of footer that's already kind of built in there that has some some basic information for that page. But if I wanted to add another block, like say there's something here that I want to add that's not here already, I can click on this plus sign, and now I can add all different kinds of content to this page. So I can add text, a heading, a list, a quote. I can add media, and media covers images, photos, all that kind of stuff. I can add another design element. So if I wanted to add a grid or columns or a button, I can do that. Remember we talked about widgets. Those are just like more pre-made pieces that we can add to our site. So they've got timeline, event countdown, all really kinds of cool stuff that we can add to our website. And you can play around with this, but basically if you click one of these things, if I click blog posts, it's going to add all my blog posts here to my WordPress page, and it actually added it to the bottom. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but as you can see, once you add that block there, you've got all these different options that you can utilize to change the layout of the block. We can make it full column, we can make it 3 columns, we can make it the photo right or left justified, we can make the photo the background of that post. We can do all kinds of different things, but there's always kind of like this contextual menu that will pop up once you add your block that will give you kind of these options to do certain things with that block. You can also move this block around. So if I go to this kind of second kind of 6-dot thing here, the little hand will pop up and I can drag my section to a different area of my page. So like I said, it's a really easy drag and drop type of feature. I can also use these arrows to move things up and down. If I don't want to drag, I can use that feature as well. And then if I don't want this at all, I can just remove this block. If I don't like what I did, and I can just say remove. And now it should be gone. Yeah. So remember, this plus sign is basically if I want to add any type of block, any type of content, I can do that. The next thing is just basically a toggle between edit mode and select mode. So if you want to be able to kind of like edit the text and click into that and change that, you can do that with the pencil here icon. If you just wanted to just click on things and select them and you don't want to necessarily edit anything, you can use this kind of a select arrow here. You can just kind of click through to see what you've got going on. And it'll kind of highlight and tell you what you've got working with. So that's a pretty cool tool. Then of course we've got very, very, very important, the undo and redo. So if you make a mistake, if you do something you don't like, don't worry about it. Just click the undo or redo button, just like we have in all the other programs that we use. So no worries if you make a mistake, just click undo or delete whatever you did. It's totally fine. We've got details. So that just tells you basically how many characters, words that you're working with, if that's important to you. And then we've got our kind of list view. So anything that you click on, any element that you click on, say, for example, I'm clicking on this big image here. If I click on this list view, basically it's going to toggle me through all the different elements of that cover photo. So we've got the heading there. Then we've got the paragraph below it. Then we've got this button. And then we've got this paragraph below it. So it kind of tells you all the different elements that are inside of that kind of big content block, just in case you're kind of wondering, like, what is this thing made of? That kind of helps you do that. But you can also just obviously just click through manually as well. It's just up to you what you want to do. Now, so over here, if we go to the right-hand side of this interface, we can switch to draft, which basically means that if we've already got a page published, but we don't want to delete it, but we don't want the website to be, we don't want it to be viewable on the website, we can change it to a draft mode, and then we can work on that later if we don't want to display that right now. We can preview it, which is also a really great tool, because before you actually click the update button, which actually publishes your changes or saves your changes, we can just preview it in this preview mode just to see how it will look on the live site, so we can get an idea of how our changes look before we actually publish them. And if you don't like what you did, nothing will actually be saved until you click the update button. So any changes that you make that you want to save, it's very important that you click this update button, or else they will not be saved if you go back to a different menu or you go to your website. Now this is an important menu item too. This is kind of like this little gear thing here, this black settings bar. But if you click that, it kind of hides and shows the sidebar here. And these settings are really for anything you click on, it'll show the settings for that element. So right now, let's say I'm clicked on this headline text and it tells me I'm on the heading, and I can change the font size, I can change the line height, I can change the color, all kinds of stuff like that. So whatever I'm clicking on, this sidebar will change to kind of give me options for that element. So as you can see, I just clicked on this image here and it's giving me some options for style. So if I want to make it rounded, I can just easily click on that. Now I have a round shape, or I can go back to the default. It tells me about the sizes of my images and kind of helps me to scale or up or down if I want to. Remember, if I don't like what I did, I can just undo. And I can also replace the photo. So I can click on replace image. I can go to my image library and I can either find something I already have here, or I can upload something from my computer and I can replace that photo by clicking insert, and now that photo is there. I'm going to undo that just so I can have a kind of even picture there. So remember, this sidebar is contextual to whatever object that you're clicking on within your WordPress layout. So it's going to change depending on what you've clicked on. That's the options they're going to give you. You guys following so far? Is this making sense? Are you guys clicking too? All right, cool. I just want to make sure. Make sure that you guys aren't on like Amazon.com or something, like buying some clothes, which is fine. Just buy me something too. All right, cool. And then the last three menu items up here are global styles. So if you want to change like the font style, then you can kind of go to these pre-made kind of font pairings that they have, and you can see how it kind of changes the style of the font if you don't like what you have by default. Or if you really want to get fancy, you can go here and change it yourself. You can find the different heading styles, which are basically the big paragraphs. We call those headings. So H1 is the biggest kind of title size that you'll see. It goes up from H1 all the way down to H6. But H1 is the heading style. That's probably like the biggest idea or biggest headline that you'll have on your website. And you can also change the body copy. So anything below that, all the paragraphs and things like that, you can change the style of that to be whatever font that you want. And you can really go down a rabbit hole and be just working on that for a while, because I love fonts. I think they're so cool. And so I'm pretty picky about that. But if you're not that picky, or if you know what you like, you can maybe pick one of these font pairings that already come here for you, or you can just go ahead and kind of figure that out on your own. And Marquita says, yay, fonts. Yes, I'm definitely a font hoarder. I'm not going to show you all the fonts on my computer because it's pretty bad, but it's definitely part of typography, which is part of the kind of whole design principle thing. And if you get your typography and your fonts down, it can have a vast and immense effect on how your website looks, because fonts are important. But that's a whole different class. We're going to stay on target. And so let's see, do I like what I did? I'm going to pick this font here. I'm going to pick this one. And I'm going to say update because I like this. So I'm going to keep that. And keep in mind that we haven't actually launched our site yet. So whatever you update, if you save it, no one really is going to see it but you. A lot of times it's really funny when I work with clients and we're working a website and we go to kind of publish the website, and they're so nervous because they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to see it. But the truth is that no one's going to see it, because no one knows that you even published the site until you tell them that it's there. So don't feel stressed if you publish something and it's not right. A website is a living thing. You can go back, you can save it to a draft, you can delete the page, you can always update it, and you always have a chance to save your changes. So no worries if you click update, because I guarantee you the only people that know it's there are you and WordPress right now. All right. So that's kind of like the basic kind of anatomy of all these menus here at the top in this sidebar. these two things here this is Jetpack, which is basically kind of like a thing that kind of helps you with your site to preview the likes and the sharing buttons. If you did have some blog content and you wanted people to comment, it will be able to show those things. If people liked your comment, your blog, you can add certain functionality like social sharing buttons and things like that. And this last kind of 3-dot thing, it's just even more options that you can use. If for some reason you actually wanted to see like the code, you could do that. That might be really scary to you. So just click back to Visual Editor and then you won't be scared anymore. But if you are into code, you can kind of see some of that basic code back there and what you're working with if you're more interested in that side aspect of it. But we're going to keep it simple and we're going to keep it on the Visual Editor. Does anybody have any questions about this kind of anatomy of these kind of menu editing items here at the top and on the side? Any questions? And if the answer is no, then just give me a no. Just let me know something and we'll keep it moving. All right. Cool, you guys are WordPress experts, I see. All right, very good. So we're gonna go back. Can you save several drafts of the same page? So what it will do is you can kind of look at your draft history. Like, so if you look here on the side, it kind of tells you what revisions you've made. And you can actually, so if I did something 5 minutes ago versus 3 minutes ago, you can kind of go back to a different version of it. But if you want to, if you're working on the same page and it's a draft, wherever you end up at, that's that page. And so if you want a different draft, you can create a new page and start from there. But you do kind of have this kind of revision history where you can kind of go back and see, load up something that you did 5 minutes ago versus something that you did now. Of course, this will get more complicated if you've been working for a while and you've got a long log of versions that you've done. So kind of try to keep track of where you are, but you can definitely create as many drafts of different pages as you would like. And again, you can go back to your page view and you can definitely, if there's something that you like, you can definitely copy that page and just duplicate it and then just name it something else, and then you can have another version of that page if you want to do that as well. Cool. So let's go ahead, if you're still on that home page, go ahead and click on that W in the corner so you can kind of get back to this kind of view. So we can get back to this kind of white sidebar and white interface here, because now we're going to go on to post. And we're going to click on post. And basically, it's the same idea as the pages. So basically, you're going to see a list of all the posts that you have. And right now, the theme that I chose, it just kind of gave me some kind of example posts that they already built into the theme. And they all kind of have the same title. That's why it kind of looks like that. But same thing as before, if we go to posts, we can click into one of these and we can see the actual post here. So remember, this is kind of like our blog entry. So if we're talking about, let's say we have a travel blog and we're talking about all the different places that we traveled, which will be now like the grocery store, down the street, the post office, unless you're adventurous and you're going out there like that. But this is where we would write about these different types of things here, right? So we're gonna have our title, we're gonna have our blog entry, whatever we're talking about here. And we can even add more functionality like pictures or things like that. So we can go to our, remember we have our plus on here, we can add a block and we can go and we can add a photo to our blog, wherever you want to add the photo to. So it can be, you know, in between a paragraph. We can insert things wherever we want to. And we can also, let's click off of that. We can also kind of use this what you see is what you get editor. Sometimes they call it WYSIWYG in the tech world. That's just an acronym for what you see is what you get. But you can actually kind of change the formatting of these words inside your post. So if you want to italicize, you can do that. If you want to add a link to something, you can go here and click link. You know, you can type in Amazon.com and then we'll go there. I can open this in a new tab, or I can, which basically means that when you click on that link, it'll actually open a new tab versus changing the page that you're on right now. I can do that kind of stuff. I can move this content up and down depending on where I want it to go. And I can also change this content. I can transform it to something else. So if I want this to be a quote or a heading or a list or a click to tweet, I can kind of click on these things and it will change the formatting of whatever I highlighted to format it in that way. So it's really, really easy, kind of like using Microsoft Word or something like that. Pretty simple. And I can even change like the alignment of the text. So I can have it left, center, right? And I hope you guys are clicking along and kind of trying these things out. Just experiment and see what can happen and kind of let your mind start thinking about how you want to format your website as well. And if we go over to the sidebar here, remember you can access the sidebar by clicking on this kind of gear icon here at the top, and it will pop up for you. And if we click on post here, because right now they're talking about the quote options. If I click on post, there's a couple options that I have here as well, just in general for this post in general. So something I want to go over is permalink. Basically, that's the name of your kind of URL. So by default, the WordPress will give you kind of like this kind of cryptic or kind of very generic kind of URL. And so if your website is chanelwheeler.com, chanelwheeler.wordpress.com, it'll be /example-post-3 to get to this page, this blog post. But if you wanted to change it to something else that's a little bit more intriguing or more closer to what the post is actually about, I can change this to introduce myself, and then that will be the URL that will be linked to this particular post. Now I have to make sure I save that in order for that to take effect. Another thing I can do with my blog posts is that I can categorize them. So if I wanted to talk about myself, personal, professional, thanks Tamara, appreciate you being here. If I wanted to talk about myself personally, professionally, and say my hobbies, then maybe I want to categorize my post so that whenever I'm talking about something professional, I can tag that, I can categorize that as a professional post. And then if I'm talking about something personal, my family or something like that, I can categorize that as personal. So I can add a category here. I can say professional and click add new category. I can add another one, personal. And then I can add maybe hobbies or something like that. And so now I can decide, I can check all the boxes, so I can just check the ones that are relevant. But if this is a professional post, I click professional. And now I have a way to kind of filter through my blog posts and actually view the ones that pertain to a certain category. So this is a very useful thing to use so that if you do have a lot of blogs in the future, you can kind of categorize them and people can know what type of content they're looking at. And same for tags as well. Tags is just going a little bit deeper. So for, let's say I was doing like a clothing blog or something like that, and I had different products. Let's say every product that I had that was the color blue, I would tag that product blue, and I would add that tag there. And so if someone came to my site and they were searching for only blue items, they could type in blue in the search, and all those posts or products pertaining to the color blue that I tagged blue will show up. So it's an easier way to kind of search through the site and to find the content that you want. And then finally, or almost finally, we have a featured image. So a featured image is basically going to be kind of like the thumbnail that goes along with that post excerpt that you see on the blog post. And so right now what I have is kind of this cool photo here. If I show the preview, we see that this is the photo that I've selected. It's right above my post. But if I want to change that, all I have to do is replace the image, and I can choose something else. I can choose something that's already in my media library, or I can add a new photo, and I can click on add new, and I can find something in my desktop and put it up there. And I can add it to my media library, or I can go ahead and let's see how it's going to add. There should be another option here. I don't see it though. Actually, I'll show it to you guys a little later. But if we add it to our media library and we select that, we can change that option right there. And now our photo should be this kind of beautiful flower picture for preview. Hopefully that will show up. There we go. So that's our featured image there at the top. And I'll go ahead and click update for that. Excerpt is basically just, when we look at the actual blog page, not the post, but the page that shows all the different blogs from reverse chronological order at the top to the bottom. Usually there's a picture, there's a featured image, the thumbnail, and there's a little excerpt of what your post is about, just kind of a little snippet right below it. And so you can actually define what you want that to be here. So if I just wanted to be this kind of first paragraph, I can copy that, I can paste it here, and that's what will show up on my blog roll. And then if I want to allow comments, people to talk, say stuff on my post, I can. But if I don't, I can unclick that and we will be good to go. And I can say update if I want to save those changes. Does that make sense to you guys? I know that was kind of a lot, but hopefully it makes sense to you. And if so, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. Cool. So we did posts and we did pages. So let's go back to our WordPress menu, our main menu here. And it's going to show us our post menu, but we're going to click this back arrow and go all the way back kind of to this white interface. And we're going to keep on rolling through these things so that we can actually start to create our own page and post. I just want to show you a few more things in this menu sidebar before we get to that. So media is where we add all of our images, video, audio, files. If we have a PDF document, all that kind of stuff we can add here. And we can actually filter it by images, documents, videos, audio. If you have those things, unfortunately, you have to have the premium plan to be able to utilize video and audio. So right now we can just look at documents, images, or view all. We can kind of use this little scaler thing to scale up or scale down to see all of our images. And we can add any media that we want here. So we can add it from our computer. And we can do this ahead of time or as we're designing. So if you know all the photos that you want to use for your personal website project, you can go ahead and you can add all those right now if you want and just save them for later to just use when you're ready. You can just add those to your media library and those will be there at your disposal whenever you're ready to use them. So that's basically just where all our images kind of live. And then we have comments. Now, someone did comment on one of your blog posts. You would see all the comments there. Maybe you need to approve them first, so anything that's pending would be there, or anything approved would be there. You might get some spam, so that would be there, and anything you throw away and delete would be in this trash bucket. And then we're going to actually move on to design, which I think is the part that you guys will be really interested in, because this is kind of customizing our site to look more like how we want it to look. So if you click on that little drop down there on design, we have customize and we have themes. Hopefully you guys see that. So if you click on the design here and then click the little drop down, we have customize and we have themes. So if you click on customize, we're kind of seeing a little preview of our site, what it looks like. And these are some really important kind of options here on the side that can help us to actually customize that even more. So if we click on site identity, we can see that we've got our site title here. So if I wanted to change my site title, I can go ahead and change that. And it's going to automatically render that update for me. Or if I want to add a logo to that area, instead of having my name, I can select the logo and do that as well. So I can use whatever's in my media library, or I can upload that from my computer. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and roll with my name. But if I didn't want my name and my tagline to be there, I can just simply check this little checkbox and it will disappear. So I have control over how kind of my site title and logo is rendering in that header. And I can also add a site icon. So as you know, if you look up here in the tabs, there's always like a little kind of icon, which I call a favicon. It's always right next to like the words of the tab of whatever website you're on. So if you want to add an icon for your website, whether it be a logo or a picture or whatever that is, it's going to be really, really teeny tiny. So just remember that. You can add that right here. And then the footer credit is just, remember we're using the free WordPress.com, so you're going to have to use what they give you. So by default, I think it just says like WordPress.com, all rights reserved, or something like that. But you can kind of have a little bit of options to change that. Powered by WordPress, little things like that. But nothing really critical. Whatever you want to pick is fine. It's kind of just like the copyright information for the website. So this is the basics of the site identity. If we go back up here to the top on the sidebar and click this back arrow, then we can get back to kind of this main menu of our customized options. And we can talk about menus, which I think is really cool because we can place our menu in different parts of our site, different locations. So we can have the menu at the top, we can have it at the bottom, we can add different types of menus, we can have multiple menus. This is just a way for people to navigate through the website. So we're all going to click on primary because we want to talk about our primary menu, which is this thing right here. So right now we've got home, blog, about, and contact. Now the only pages that will show up in these menu options are the pages that you actually created and published. So none of your drafts will actually show up here. But if you published a page and you saved it, then you'll have the option to add that to your menu. And you can take it out as well, because maybe all the pages that you created aren't ready to be displayed in the menu yet. Maybe you made a page for later, but you don't want to add it right now to your menu. So you can add a page at any time. If you click on any of these, you'll see that you can change the name of the actual label. So if you don't want it to be blog, I can change it to something else, and you see that it'll pop up there. Now, it doesn't mean that the page actually changed. The name of the page is still blog when you go to your pages list, but in your navigation, you can change it to be whatever you want. And I'm going to change that back to blog. And I can also remove that page from my menu if I don't want it anymore. Now, the cool thing is I can also rearrange these menu items. So if I wanted contact to be first for some reason, which is not usually the best website practice, but if we want contact to be first in the list, we can. And we can also reorder it back to be at the end. So it's pretty cool the way you can do that. And like I said, if you want to remove something from the menu, you just drop that down, click the red remove button, and now it's gone from that menu. Now the page itself isn't gone, it's still there, but it's just not in our menu anymore. If you want to add it back, we just click on add items, we find the page that we want to add back, and we click it, and now it's back again. And we can, again, reorder that the way that we want it to go. And make sure that we save the changes so that we actually have it to where we want it. I'm gonna put this, oops. There we go. It's being a little fussy. There we go. I'm gonna save that. And then if I want to, I can also take this primary menu. Right now it's in the current primary spot, which is in our header. But if I wanted to add it to the footer, I could. So if I check this checkbox, when I scroll down, now it's also at the bottom as well in our footer, right next to our copyright information. So you can add your menu in different places depending on if you want people to be able to navigate from the top or bottom. It's up to you. If I wanted to have some, I can actually go back here. If I click on the back button and I click on my social menu, I can actually have some social media links if I wanted to add that to my website. And I can decide if I want that to be on the bottom or the top. So right now they're giving me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and WordPress, but there's actually lots more options that you can add here if you want to. You can add custom links. So if you have a link to Pinterest or something like that, you can actually just type Pinterest in. Oh, Pinterest is actually already there. Let's think, maybe TikTok. And you can add that there, and then you can actually add that link to your actual link. And actually, we don't want it to be a page. We want it to be a custom link. So let's actually remove that. So you actually just go ahead and go in here and type in that URL of whatever your Twitter page is, and you would customize that. And then if you wanted to add it to the top, we can add it to the top area, or we can add it to the footer. So we've got footer, we've got it down here, and we should have it display at the top as well. Yeah. But I don't want my social media to be my primary menu item navigation, because then people can't navigate to the actual pages. So I'm just going to keep it at the bottom, uncheck that, and have that be at the bottom instead. All right. Does that make sense to you guys? Are you following along with that? And make sure my primary menu is at the top here. So it's just a matter of like kind of clicking through and making sure that the right things are checked and unchecked, making sure that your menu is in a location that you want it to be in. But it just takes practice. It's pretty easy once you get a hang of it, but it's pretty cool that you can kind of rearrange those menu items the way that you want. Then we're going to keep going back. And widgets is another thing that we talked about. So we're going to click on widgets. And for this free version of WordPress.com, really the only place that they allow you to add widgets is to the footer. And the footer is all the way at the bottom of your website. And so, like I said, these are just kind of additional types of functionality that we can add to our website. And the footer will always remain on every page. So if there's something that we want people to see all the time, we'll add it to our footer. So if we say add a widget, we can go through this kind of widget menu and we can find all kinds of things that we want to add to the footer. So maybe we want to add our MailChimp subscriber pop-up. We want to add an image. Maybe we want to say follow the blog. So let's click that. And we can see that it kind of popped up here. So I can change the title to say follow my blog. And we'll see that change render out. We can change the kind of description text here. And we have a follow button, so we can change that button text to something else if we want to. Maybe I wanted to say follow me, and I can do that as well. And that's just one part of my footer, but I actually have 2 more spaces available to add more things. So I can save those changes. I can go back, and then I can add another widget if I would like. And I can just actually click the add a widget button here, and I can add other things that I like to add. So maybe I want to add categories, whatever categories I created. Remember when I was making the blog posts, those will show up here. And I can change the title to something else. Then I can add another widget. Maybe I want to add contact info. I can put that here and change that information for that as well. So this will basically show up on every single footer of all my pages. And if this is something that I want people to see all the time, it's important to me, I'll go ahead and have that in my footer. If I don't want those, I basically just delete it or turn off the visibility. If I don't want to see it, I can show it or I can hide it. And that way it won't be there. I'll just make sure I save that out. Or I can remove that. So that's just kind of the basic functionality of the site identity, the menus, the widgets, and then the last thing here is the homepage settings. So this is pretty important because depending on what you want people to see when they first come to your website, when they type in your name.wordpress.com or whatever that URL is, we can choose that for that to be either a static page, which is maybe our homepage, or an about page, which usually it's the homepage that you want people to see, or you can make it to actually be instead, it could be your blog page. So if you wanted people to see a static page, you can choose what page that is here. If you just wanted people to see your latest post, like if you wanted to be more of a blog style type website, you can actually click this thing that says your latest posts. And instead, when people come to your website and they type in your URL, the first thing that they will see is your list of blogs, one after the other. So just depending on how you want your website to be set up, you can designate a homepage that's different than the blog role, or you can just go straight to the different blog posts that you have if that's important to you and they can see that. But I'm going to go ahead and have my homepage display as a static page, which is going to be my homepage. Like I said, you can change that to anything you want. So if for some reason you wanted people to see about you first, the first thing when they come to the site, that can be the first thing. But usually the homepage is the thing that you want people to see when they come to your site. And we're going to say save changes. All right. So last things really quick, and then we're going to get everyone to make a page and a post. We're going to go back. We're going to X out of this so that we get back to our kind of our home screen here in the sidebar. So we've gone through the site menu, we've gone through the design menu. And then the other 2 things are just tools. But basically, if you wanted to add plugins, you can go ahead and do that here, but you have to have a paid plan to do that. So we won't be able to do that in this instance. If you already had a blog somewhere else, you can import your content from another WordPress site or from your Medium blog or whatever, You can import that content into this website. You can also export your content into like kind of this a folder so that you can download all your media if you want and download into a folder or into a spreadsheet, all your different posts and content. You can do that here. Those are kind of the three main things that I wanted to show you under tools. Manage, basically if you wanted to kind of change your hosting configuration setup, if you want to upgrade to a business plan so that you could have more features and more customization, you can do that here. But just know that WordPress has their own kind of plans that they have. And if you want to pay, $25 a month, you can. But there are also other options to self-host this and to find another website hosting company that maybe is a little bit cheaper per month. Because like I said, you can pay $25 a month, you can pay $5 a month. It just depends on what comes with that hosting plan. And as you can see here, they tell you all the different things that you get with their hosting plan. But you can also find comparable plans outside of WordPress.com if you want to. So it just depends on what you want to do. You can change your domain. So if for some reason I didn't want to say Chanel W anymore and have this URL, I can kind of change this to something else. Oops, let me click on that. I can update this, or I can change the site address, or I can update to a paid plan so I don't have this WordPress.com back there behind it. And then also if I click on people, right now I'm the only admin of this website, but if I wanted someone else to be able to kind of help publish things or help build this out, I can invite other people to join, and I can assign what kind of role I want them to have. So they can log in and be an administrator, they can have a login and be an editor or author, or they can just view things. But depending on what type of team I have, or if other people are working on the site with me, I can invite the people that I want to actually join, and they'll be able to log in as well and be able to go back here and work on the website. And that's very common if you're at work or you have a kind of a group project. You guys can kind of all work on the site together. And then lastly, in this manage settings, we click on that. This is just basically kind of another way to change your site title and tagline, just the basic settings that we kind of went through last week. And if you want to change your icon here, you can do that as well. So usually with websites and website platforms, there's more than one way to do the same thing. So if you can't find it here, you might find it somewhere else, but there are multiple ways to do the same thing. Just use whatever is most comfortable for you to navigate and find those areas. And then finally, before we start making our page and our post, WP admin. Now, some of you, if you click this right here, it's actually going to take you to a dashboard that looks really similar to what you were just on, but instead it's got kind of a black sidebar instead of a white sidebar. And pretty much we're doing the same exact thing. It's basically the same backend of your website. But if you didn't want to navigate to your website through WordPress.com, there's a way that you can get to your backend anytime. And basically it's through your domain. So right here, it tells me that my dashboard is visible. If I click on this website address here, my website /WP admin and another /, this is how I can get to this backend. So whether I got my website from WordPress.com or WordPress.org, I can always get to the dashboard by typing in my URL and then /WP-admin and another /. That's the way that I can always get to my backend, no matter where I purchased or where I got my WordPress started from. And the easy way to do that is that we can take this and we can bookmark it and add it to our bookmarks bar if we want. So that's really easy for us to be able to get to this dashboard. So I can add to my bookmarks bar here, and that way I can always easily get to my WordPress backend and log in really quickly. So basically, if you click on WP admin, it's pretty much the same interface. It's a little bit different. It's not as easy or as intuitive as the WordPress.com, because really for WordPress.com, they're trying to make the setup as easy as possible. But most of the menu items are pretty much the same. They just may be located in a different area or maybe called something slightly different, but you can still access the same things through this WordPress admin dashboard. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can just stick to this kind of simple interface and you can take it from there. Phew, all right. Any questions? Does that make sense? Anything that's confusing? Anything that you need clarity on? Because now we're about to put you guys to work and have you pick a theme make a page, make a post, and we'll get out of here. Any questions? All right, cool. So this is what we're gonna do. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the sidebar here. Make sure you're on this, back to this kind of white interface that we've been working with in this white sidebar. And we're gonna go to design and we're gonna go to themes. So we're gonna pick a theme. And right now we're all gonna work from the same theme, but moving forward after this class is over with, please feel free to pick whatever theme that you want, because I definitely want you to be able to use create a site that you like and that works for you. But for now, we're gonna click on design. We're gonna go to themes. And let's all work with this one called, I think it's called Heaver or Hever right here. So it's more towards the bottom. So if you scroll all the way down, you should be able to see it. If you don't see it, maybe you have to click on show all themes, but I think it's that last row of themes here, and we're gonna select that. And the way that we do that is you can click on these little 3 dots right here. And if you don't already have it selected, you just click on activate. So mine's already activated, so that's not showing up for me. But if you don't already have the theme selected, and click on these little 3 dots right here, and then click on activate, and it will switch you to this theme. So when you have the Hever, Heaver or Hever theme, click say I got it in the chat. And make sure you have it activated. Cool. Leanne's using the one she's already got, no problem. All right, got it, good. All right, so now that we're all pretty much on the same theme, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make a page and we're gonna make a post, and we're gonna do it 2 different ways. We're gonna use a pre-made kind of template that they already have, and we're gonna also do something from scratch just so we can see the experience from each one. So we're gonna go up to the sidebar and we're gonna click on site. And once that menu expands down, we're gonna click on pages. So site and then pages. And this is the page that I accidentally created when I was doing my menu. Let me trash that. And once you're on pages, we're gonna click on this pink button, add new page. We're just gonna click on add new page. And once you've got that, just type new page in the chat so I know that you're there. All right, you guys are pros. I'm gonna have someone else teach a class next week. Very good. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is this is gonna be pretty simple, but we're gonna actually choose one of these kind of pre-made themes that we like. It doesn't matter what it is, we're just doing this for experimentation purposes, so this doesn't have to be the page that you use on your website. We're just playing around to see how this thing works. So find one of these, so scroll down on the side here and find one of these page templates that you like and just select one of those layouts. And there's all different kinds of options here, so whatever it is that you like that kind of stands out to you, go ahead and click that page layout. And I'm gonna choose one right here. And once you choose one, just click on this button here at the top, this blue button that will say use, and then whatever layout your layout's called, click on that. And so once you've selected your layout, we're gonna do 3 things. We're going to, 1, change the title. So we're gonna change the title of this page to a test page so that you know that you're creating a test page. This doesn't really count unless you want it to. And then we're gonna update a photo and we're gonna move some things around just to see how this stuff works. So I want you to change your title to say test page, and then depending on what type of layout you have, hopefully there's a photo in there somewhere. And if there's not, maybe you can add one using this block. You can figure that out. But try to find a photo that's already existing. We're gonna click on it and we're gonna figure out how do we switch out this image to replace it with something else. So it's pretty easy. Once you click on that image, this little kind of menu will pop up, and right here, the word replace is right here. So if we click replace, we can actually open our media library, which is all the images we've already saved to the website. We can actually use Google Photos or Pexel Photos, which are free photos that we can use, stock imagery. or we can upload from our computer. So find an image that you would like. I'm gonna go use Pexels just so you can see this free stock photography photo image photo website. And I'm gonna just pick a photo from here, but you guys can pick one from your computer, from wherever you want. And we're gonna make sure that we change at least one image on our layout. And then the third thing you're gonna do is you're gonna just rearrange an element to be somewhere else. So right now, let's say I want this work with us to be somewhere else. I'm gonna actually click this area right here. Oops, that's actually the line. And sometimes it's a little fickle. You gotta make sure you're clicking on the right thing. If I wanna work with us to somewhere else, I'm gonna drag it up to the top just to see. I'm gonna drag those other elements as well up there with it. So just play around with your layout, just have fun. See how you can rearrange things, move things around. And those are the 3 things that we wanna do for this page. If you have any questions while we're doing this, just let me know, and we'll just do this for just a couple minutes. Remember, we can always preview this, so if we want to see what it looks like on our site, we can click preview, and we can see our changes before we actually save them and click publish or update. So let me know if you have any questions. And once you're done doing those 3 actions, changing that title to say test page, changing out an image, and also just kind of rearranging something just to see how you can move things around, go ahead and say done for me, and we'll wait for everyone to be done. And then we're gonna go ahead and make our post. But no rush, go ahead and take the time that you need to figure it out. And once everyone's done, we'll move on to a post. All right, very fast. All right, almost everyone's done. Wait for a few more people. Done. All right. Seems like mostly everybody. So you guys are doing pretty good. This is pretty simple. And so if you like what you've done, we're just going to say publish, because we want to keep our test page just to see that we've made a test page, and just to keep that on our record, just so we know. So maybe we like what we've done, but we can always delete it later if we don't want to have it anymore. I'm just going to say publish. And so now when I click on my WordPress menu, sidebar, and I go back, we can see that the test page is here. So if I go back again, my test page is now one of my pages on my site. And this is just for test purposes. So if you want to remove it at some point, all good, we can do that. All right, now a test post. So now this is going to go into our blog. And so we're going to go to posts back here on the sidebar. If you're not already here, then just go back, click your WordPress menu, and get back to this page so you can see the sidebar. And you're going to click on posts. And we've already got kind of the dummy post that they've made for us, but we're going to make our own. So we're going to say add new post. We're going to click on that. And now we've got more of a blank slate. So now we got to do a little bit more work. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another title. We're going to call this test post. And we're going to do 3 things. We're going to have an image, we're going to have a quote, and we're going to have paragraph. So the way that we do this is we've already got one block that's kind of started for us. So we can actually start typing our paragraph here if we want. You can copy and paste something. You can write your own text if you want. So we're going to have our paragraph. We're going to have our title, which is test post. We're going to add an image inside of this text here. So we're going to use our plus sign to add a block. And we're going to go down and find to media and find image. If you want to get fancy, you can choose something else, but I'm going to just go straight with a regular image here. And then I'm going to find my image by selecting it from my media library. I'm going to upload it from my computer. And I can, if I click select, I can use my media library. I can use these kind of free resources, or I can upload from my computer and I can find my own image from my computer. And then I'm also going to add a quote. So I can either click this plus sign here, or I can also click the plus sign here, basically saying I'm going to add a block right below the block I've just created. So either one works. And I'm going to add a quote. And it gives me kind of like a cool little quote style. And my quote will be, "I am awesome, so are you." And that's the original Chanel Wheeler quote. But we can also change the style of that quote. If we click on these little quote marks here, we have a couple options. So we can use that one, or we can kind of use this one with the italicized font. So I want you guys to play around with that. I want you to have your title changed to test post. I want you to create a paragraph. You can use the kind of starter text I already gave you, or you can go to the add block and you can find the text here where you can use the paragraph block to add your own paragraph right wherever you want to. You can make your own copy, or you can copy and paste from somewhere else. And you can rearrange these things if you want. But basically have a photo, a paragraph, and an image. And when you're done with that, say post in the comment section. Post, P-O-S-T. Remember, if we have this kind of sidebar here on the side, this kind of helps us with some more menu options. So if you want to get fancy and you want to start making categories for your post, you can, as I did. If you want to have a featured image, which is basically, now the image we put here is actually within the text that we made for our post. But if you want to have a featured image that shows up on the actual blog feed, and it's kind of like that thumbnail, and then the excerpt below it, you can add a featured image there. So if you go to the sidebar here by clicking on this little kind of gear guy, it'll show up. And as long as you're on the post option here, not block, but post, then you can actually scroll down and you can add a featured image that will show up in your blog roll, and it'd be like that main thumbnail image that you'll see when you go see your blog. And you don't have to do that, but if you want to get fancy, you can do that as well. You can always preview this to see what it looks like. So this is my featured image at the top, and then I've got the other image that I added here in the middle, my quote, my cryptic text here, but maybe you'll have something a little better. And you can keep kind of previewing this out to see what it looks like until you're satisfied, and then you can click publish once you're done. You will have a new blog post. So take your time, figure it out, but once you're done with that, just type the word post, P-O-S-T, in the chat box. And I'm gonna add some more text to mine. Let's see. All right, we got some winners here, very fast. Remember, you can delete things if you don't want something to be there. You can click on whatever image or text that you have, and hopefully this menu bar will kind of pop up here. And if you go to this last option here, the 3 dots, you can remove that block if you don't want it anymore. Or you can click undo if you want to undo something. All right, we've got a lot of posts going. We'll wait for a few more people to finish their posts. I'm sure you guys look a lot more exciting than mine. I'm going to go ahead and publish my posts. And now my test post is live. So now when I go to my actual blog page, And I can do that by clicking my WordPress menu and going back. I can view the post itself, which I already did. But if I want to see the actual page with all the posts on it, I'm going to go back to pages and I'm going to view the blog page. This is where all my posts are showing up at. If I view that page, I should see, hopefully, my new posts in that list of blog posts, which I do. And I see my featured image that I chose. If I click on that post, then I will see the actual full post with that featured image at the top, my text, my photo, and my quote. You guys see that? Does that make sense to you? All right, cool. So now you guys can kind of start seeing how this is going to come together for your own website. So if you want to talk about in your blog what you like to cook, maybe you'll have 3 pictures of your famous dishes. If you just want to talk about how you take the best selfies, maybe you'll have your featured image be your selfie, a different selfie for each featured image. And each post will talk about how great you are. If you want, you can talk about personal, professional, hobbies, whatever it is that you want to talk about, it's about you. So this is your website. So just start to kind of think about those things. Is anybody lost? Does anyone have any questions about any of this stuff before we wrap up? Is it easy enough, or do you feel like it's a little bit difficult? Do you feel like it's pretty easy to explore and navigate through? Sorta. All right, Wesley. Well, you know what? We're gonna keep going, but you can watch the replay and you can also continue to practice, because practice makes perfect. And this is a new kind of platform that we're learning. So you definitely have to just keep trying it out, just like it is with anything that you learn. You just kind of got to get familiar with the interface and figure out what you're doing. But just remember that if you kind of stick with these primary kind of menu items, the site menu, which has your pages and posts, you stick with the design menu, which is your customizing your themes. If you kind of stick with those 2 main menus, it will pretty much be the ones that you'll use the most. And Leanne says that she's following along on an iPad. It's harder than a desktop. Yeah, for sure. Desktop is definitely the easiest way to do web development. If you're doing it on an iPad or a phone, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you won't probably get that full screen experience. So if you can't do it from a desktop, that would be cool. But if not, hopefully you were able to follow along a little bit. And so finally, to get ready for next week, I'm going to minimize this here. What we need to finish before the next class so that we can be ready to kind of get down and dirty and build out our website. I want you to go back and choose a theme that you like. So I had everyone kind of pick the same theme, but you can go back and choose one that you feel is more close to what your personality or what you think your layout might be. If you want to do a little bit of planning and do some sketching, that's cool. But if you just want to choose a theme and see what that kind of theme looks like and all the different pages within that theme, go ahead and do that. Keep on practicing if you have time. So create another page or another post or edit the one that's already there and just play around with the different functionality. Try to add different blocks to see what that looks like, because there are a lot of different options in there, content blocks that you can put in your website. So just play around with that and you'll get more familiar. And then you got to gather your content to build your website. And so this is important too. And so what that content is your photos. So we want to have at least 4 photos. We want to have a photo for the homepage, for that big kind of image that we have on our homepage. And then we want to have 3 photos for our blog posts. So at least 3 photos for our featured image, so that when we go to our blog, we'll see that thumbnail that has our whatever picture we want. And then we can also add more photos within the post if we want. But at minimum, let's have 4 pictures ready. And if you want to, you can save those 4 pictures on your desktop so that you can easily access them. Or you can go ahead and add them to your media library so that you can already just go ahead and pull it from there. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But if you can already have those ready, I think that'll make the process a lot faster. And then for our content, let's try to have a main headline that kind of intros or explains like what our website is about. So if I want my website to be called Chanel's the Awesome Creator, then that will be like the headline that's at the top of the website. But you can say whatever you want to say, maybe a paragraph or two about yourself. So if you don't feel like writing it, you can just go to your LinkedIn profile and copy and paste what you already wrote, or wherever you may have some information about yourself. Or if you want to type up a new paragraph, that's cool too. And then we just want to have a title for each of our blog posts that we're going to have. We don't necessarily need to write a whole article for each blog post because that's doing a lot, unless you want to. We can actually use some of the dummy text that's already in some of those posts that were already created for us, or you can copy and paste from somewhere else. But really, mainly, I just want to see that photo and that title to kind of tell me what those 3 blog posts are about. So I need a big headline, I need a paragraph or 2 about yourself, I need the title of each of your blog posts, and then those 4 images. Does everybody got that? Can everybody do that before Saturday, you think? Or at least 10 minutes before the class starts? So that's your little homework. Okay, cool. And you can also I guess you can probably do it while the class is going on. Like I won't know, but I definitely want you to be able to leave with a product and be able to share if you are so willing, just to show your progress. So make sure you guys have all those things. I'm going to follow up with the email later on today with all this stuff as well, just so you don't forget. But this is what we're going to do. And then next week, we are going to do a quick review of the backend, just so we remember where everything's at, what we need to do. And then we're going to spend some time like creating our website and really getting down dirty with that. And I'm actually going to check in with each of you separately while we're doing that, just for a few minutes so I can answer any questions you may have that you want to kind of address. And then hopefully we'll be able to get to some type of end. And if you want, I'd really love to show and tell what we have. That would be really cool. Maybe you can inspire someone else, inspire me, just so I can see what your progress was. But I think that would be really cool if we can end the class with a little bit of show and tell. And then of course, if you made it through all 3, I will go ahead and email you your cool certificate at the end of that once I tally up the attendance. Anybody have any questions? Everybody ready for next week, or what are you feeling? All right. Yes, Wesley. Thank you, Topia. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I will end with this. Vicky says she's ready. Yes, I'm ready to see it too, Vicky. I'm excited about your website. Cool. So to end today's class, remember next week is our last WordPress 101 part 3. We're going to make our websites, and hopefully maybe someone will be courageous enough to show their progress. Remember, October 16th through 17th is going to be our portfolio days, portfolio event, where if you have a design portfolio or web design portfolio that you need to kind of use for getting a job, getting to a school, or for maybe freelance, and you want it to be reviewed just to see if you can have any improvements made to it, totally free. That's going on October 16th and 17th, and you can go to the website to sign up for that. And then upcoming, stay tuned, I'll have more details, but we are going to learn some design software. So we're going to learn Adobe InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator. These are the industry standard for professional design. I use them absolutely every single day. And so if you're interested in that and learning what type of things you can make with those programs, then let's do it. So remember, if you have any questions, email me at Chanel@awesomedesign.academy. Follow on Instagram at Awesome Design Academy. And yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Because if not, I will give you back the rest of your day, and I will see you next week. All right, guys. It was really great talking to you. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Take care.